you for being here this evening, everyone. I just want to say hello, welcome. My name is Breon Ransom. I'm the senior director, a senior assistant director, of MBA Admissions, Flex MBA Online. And I want to welcome you and definitely say thank you for joining us this evening for the Georgetown McDonough School of Business Flex and Flex MBA Online Women's Panel, where you'll hear from some of the women at McDonough. During this time we have together, you'll hear about the student experience as they navigate through life, work, and academics. This evening, our moderator is our Associate Dean of MBA Admissions, Shelly Heinrich. And on the panel, 3 of McDonough's current students, we have Sumita Mohan, Meg Boglijan, and Amber Fording. Now, I'm going to pass it on to Shelly, and then we'll actually get started.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining right after work, depending on the time zone you're calling in from, or maybe across the world if it's evening time. Really excited to chat with you all today. I love really getting to speak about kind of the decision to do a working professionals program, and then specifically as a woman, like what does that mean? What are the considerations? What are the challenges, the juggles? And so I love just being able to chat about it. And I'll bring in my own experiences, having done the executive MBA. So I've been at Georgetown for about 9 years. I did a master's degree at UT Austin before kids. And then I did an executive MBA at Georgetown with a 4-year-old. And so I'll certainly intermix some of that experience into the questions. But I'm excited that you all are considering a part-time MBA. I think the decision to go part-time versus full-time is a big one, and there's lots of considerations, but there's lots of benefits, right? And so we'll talk through that and hear from the students why they decided to do different programs and pursue the MBA. So that's a little bit about myself. I mean, I started my career in the corporate and nonprofit sector, but I've spent most of my career in higher ed. I love higher ed because I do love to see how the resources of a great school like Georgetown can really allow people to catapult their career. No matter where you're coming from, industries, backgrounds, you can completely do a 180 in your career. And then all of a sudden you get doors open for resources and networks and experiences that you never knew were possible. And so it's really exciting to be a part of that journey working in admissions. And I always love talking about Georgetown. I very much drank the Kool-Aid for a couple of years after working here and decided to go back and do the executive MBA here. So without further ado, I'd love to have Amber and Meg perhaps introduce themselves. So maybe if you want to share, kind of what program you're doing, when you graduated, all of that, or about to graduate, where you're from and where you're working. So just a little bit about yourself. So Amber, maybe you start, and feel free to also introduce your kitty. I love that this is real world life right now. We're all home with various pets and kids and family members. So yeah, why don't you start out? Oh, I think maybe sound.
Is that better?
Yes, perfect, great.
Awesome. Glad that was an easy fix. So this is Kramer. He's my helper. My name's Amber Fording. I originally grew up in Oregon, but I haven't lived there for about 12 years. I also spent some time in Europe. I'm half French, and I've been living in the DC area since 2017. I actually had the opportunity to do the Master of Science in Business Analytics, which is given through McDonough. It's technically a flex program, and so it's a lockstep program that's 18 months. We all follow the same programming. We finished our coursework in December, so we'll be walking in May. I don't currently have coursework going on right now. I wanted to do that degree because my original undergrad studies were in international affairs and political science, and so I didn't have that business background. Doing that degree through the McDonough program gave us the opportunity to have professors that came in from the business school, as well as some more technical work. I know that if you choose to do the MBA program, there is an option to do a data certification as well, if you're interested in that. And all the clubs have been really great. I had gotten into data analytics and business intelligence purely by accident after I graduated. So I was self-taught with everything that I was doing, living in San Francisco, working at a small financial services fintech company. I moved to DC and started working at a company that does policy technology for lobbyists and government affairs folks that IPO'd last July. And at the same time, I actually left that company and went to Google, where I was for 6 months. And I was part of the unfortunate 12,000 that were laid off in January. So I'm currently looking for a role. But it's been great to get a little break after finishing the coursework in December, actually, and the experience has been really awesome.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. And maybe I'll turn it over to Meg as well. I see our other panelists. Sumeda has joined, and so I'm trying to promote her, but maybe Brianna on the back end, she might have to log off and rejoin. I see she has joined, but Meg, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Meg Bagleen. I am a communications professional. I currently work at a public affairs firm based here in DC. I'm actually from the DC area, but have spent my time here and there and returned a little over, I guess, 2 years ago, primarily to join this program while pursuing a job in public affairs. So currently I am a Flex MBA student, and I'm set to graduate in May, though I'll finish my coursework in December. And I am, in addition to pursuing just the general MBA, I'm pursuing the certificate in non-market strategy, which I really enjoy, highly recommend, and is a really great addition if you're interested in the public policy landscape. I think just to add, I was a communications major in college. I've done communications on the Hill and in the private sector for a little over a decade. And the MBA for me was an opportunity to really develop more quant and business skills that I felt was lacking in my experience as just a future job candidate. So I've definitely gotten that through the coursework.
Awesome. And I love that you said you relocated for the program. So that sounds fantastic. So, yep, great. So, why don't you talk both of you, a little bit about your path that led you to decide to do a graduate program in a business school, and what resources you use to make a decision. Like, how did you go about deciding, yes, graduate school at this time, and then, gosh, how do I research and figure this all out?
Can jump in. So for me, I think the opportunity to go to grad school was always back of mind. I felt pretty certain that I wanted to stay in some form of marketing and communication. So the opportunity to take time off is a little daunting, especially because I wasn't interested in a career switch. But I think for me, thankfully, the pandemic was a good opportunity to have the time to prepare for some of the testing. That said, I think it opened up my eyes to the fact that managing your time, which is a big part of the Flex program, isn't that hard. It's hard to give up an event every once in a while, but I could have done this a lot sooner with just dedicating a couple of evenings. So I'm glad I'm finally, I guess, taking that opportunity.
Awesome. Great.
I think same thing. The pandemic made me really seriously think about it. Something I've been considering for a little bit. The MSBA program at Georgetown was brand new. I think my class was the second cohort to ever go through it, so it had just come out. It was definitely very targeted in terms of the material that I wanted to learn. Transparently, also no testing required for admissions. Optional, recommended, but not required. And then I was looking at some of the other schools. I was looking at the UVA. Darden has a program that's kind of similar. Georgia Tech has one as well. And I think there's really nothing that compares to the cachet and the prestige of Georgetown. The other thing is, even though the MSBA program is primarily virtual, we have a couple in-person residencies. I was really looking forward to the opportunity to be able to come to campus, in DC, especially because I live here, and I joined a bunch of clubs. And so even though it is a primarily virtual program, I was able to get to know a lot of the MBA students and some of the Flex MBA students. I even took a class for 0 credit. So that was definitely a big part of the appeal for me too.
Great. And why now? Like, why did you decide to do it at this point in your life, at this point in your career? Because there's no prescribed timeline for grad school, right? Like, unlike undergrad, most people kind of go right after high school. Not everyone, but grad school, it's like you could go right after undergrad. You could wait 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15. So why now for both of you?
I think for me, it was, again, like always something that I could do, but I had to be very thoughtful about when I pulled the trigger and decided that this was something I really wanted to dedicate a huge chunk of time to. After being in the workforce for this amount of time, and I think for everyone it's a little bit different, but really knowing, and I think this is a really cool part of Georgetown's application process, but really knowing what you wanted to do or what you want to get out of the program, it made it an easy choice to kind of use this as my next step in my career.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I was about 5 or 6 years, I think, into my career. I'm 31 now, so I was about 29 or 30 when I applied. The average age of the MSBA students is 30, even though it kind of runs the gamut. We had folks who are as young as, I think, even down to 23, and then all the way up to 45. So very much at different points in their careers. Some folks were looking to make a career shift and wanted to do that. For me personally, just starting to get into management and be able to have that degree to back that up, starting to manage teams and have the opportunity to take some classes that, we talk a lot about influencing change and organizational success and things like that. And so it's super helpful coming into that.
Yep. Great. And I will add into that, on the timing, I didn't plan to go back to graduate school. I did a master's of education at UT Austin, and kind of like thought that was like the checkbox on graduate school. But primarily because I work in business schools, the idea of an MBA kept nagging at me, probably because I hear it all day long in my workplace. It kept nagging at me, and it was definitely one of those dinners I had with my husband, date night, where we're like both reflecting on what are these bucket list life items that you haven't accomplished or want to accomplish. And I mentioned to him, I wish I'd done an MBA. Like, yes, I did a master's of education. It was great. I mean, UT was fantastic, but I said I wish I'd have held out and done an MBA, because I felt that's really where the value was. And I remember saying, but I have a 4-year-old, and I think that ship has sailed. Like, I think, it wouldn't be the right time now to do it. And he said, look, life is too short. You're only getting, if you want to do this, do it now. Fast forward, I got some advice from another mom who said, if you're going to do it with kids, you have to do it when you only have one. Once you have 2 kids, the game changes. Life changes, your work-life balance changes. And now that I do have 2 kids, I can resoundingly say, like, I don't know if I could do it with 2 kids. I'm not saying that I couldn't. There were people in my program who had multiple children, but that stuck with me in terms of timing. It was like, all right, it's going to be much easier now than it would later. And so that played into it from a timing perspective for me. So I'll just add that in there as well. All right, so let's move into work-life balance. So how did you manage, work, your school, you have a personal life, you have chores? I mean, how did you do it all? What were your strategies or learnings?
There was crying. One thing that I'll say is, I think, and I heard this from some of the other folks in my course, is in the beginning, you have this little freak out that lasts maybe like 3 weeks, It's like, what did I get myself into? And that very quickly resolves itself. I mean, it really just starts to become habit, figuring out how to manage your time and everything like that. Joining the program was something that I had spoken to my manager at work about since I was thinking about applying. So he knew that that was coming. I made sure that, they knew that I was going to be doing that, and they were really great working with me on it. Asking for help from my community, my partner at the time, was super helpful when I had finals and tests and things like that, just in terms of maybe making dinner one night or things like that. So not being afraid to ask for help from your community, I think, is really important. And then if you're working at the same time, it's definitely more helpful if you have a supportive environment, and a manager that's willing to kind of back you up and maybe let you take off early a couple of times.
Awesome. Great. I love the first part you started on, said crying. So yeah, there definitely are those moments where you're like, wait, I did not sign up for this much stress, but you get into a rhythm. What about you, Meg? And then I'll have Meg answer, and then we'll introduce you, Sumeda. And so glad that you joined us. We could see that you were on. You were in the cyberspace room. So I'm glad that we were able to figure out how to get you here. So Meg, why don't you chime in, and then we'll.
Yeah, I think the 3 weeks that Amber mentioned is really funny because it is totally true. And then, you hear talking about other big things that people take on, and then it just like is a part of your life. And the funny thing is, I have classmates and friends that are like, I don't know what to do with my time. So you sort of just adapt, and you manage expectations at work, and you're educated about how to manage it. It just is amazing how it works out, because the couple weeks too.
Yeah. Great. It's breaking up a little bit, but I think we got most of what you're saying. Sumeda, so why don't you, just start introducing yourself, what program you did, where you're currently working, maybe we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, Shelley. Hi, everyone. My name is Sumeda. So I'm a second year flex student. Actually, Meg and I are in the same cohort. And my background is in electrical engineering. So I did the classic switch, which is worked for some years as a hardware engineer on circuits and typical lab rat life. And then I decided to switch to business management. And that's when I also thought about getting an MBA. But I did not want to quit my job and then apply for a full-time program. I wanted a program where I could keep my job as well as study at the same time. And it's to kind of jump on the time management part. I think that is what was being discussed when I joined. One of the things that's really worked with me is what Amber also talked about, which is having a supportive community around you. And that includes my colleagues, that includes friends, that includes family. They have to be they were super understanding that, weekends will be sacrificed. There will be days where I'll come back from work and I'll be busy working with my classmates on a study group, or outings can be canceled at the last minute because I just remembered that the assignment is due in a few days and some of my group mates can't meet. So I think that has been one of the things. And the other thing that has personally worked really well for me is the shut on, shut off, which is where the way I do it is from this time till this time, I'll be focused on work, where I'm only thinking about work. And then when I'm commuting from work, and I work in Germantown, so it's a bit of a commute, but when I'm actually commuting from work to school, then I'm only thinking about school. So that switch happens where for those 2.5, 3 hours that I'm in class, I'm only thinking about school. And that has personally helped me a lot with my time management.
Great. I love that. Shut on, shut off. That is fantastic. I feel like I need that in my own life right now. It's just like, okay, we're focused on this now. Let's clear out all the rest of the, the other things going on in life. It's often in many ways you're juggling, and every week or every day there's a different priority. So maybe this week it is work. You have a deadline. You've got to go full energy on work. The next week you have an exam, so you're kind of you're juggling that. Okay, let's focus on the exam. And then the next week it's, a family member, spouses or partners or child's, birthday or vacation. And so that becomes an important to you. And it really is, I categorize it as adulting decisions where you as an adult decide that is okay, that choosing your priorities week by week, knowing that you can't always do it all every single week, that's fine, right? There were classes where I said, you know what, I'm okay getting a B in this class because this topic is not in my foreseeable future in my career. I won't call out any topics in case people are working in them, but I said a B is fine. There were other class topics where I said, absolutely, I want an A, or I want even an A plus because this is really in my future career. And that was my decision to make. And I think that's the difference between grad school and undergrad, perhaps. I want to ask maybe, while we're on this topic of work-life balance, were there any life hacks that you learned that made your efficient life juggling easier? Were there, I don't know, apps or subscriptions or just things that you did where you're like, why wasn't I doing this before? Any life hacks? And then Amber, I saw your hand up, so I'll take your question or your comment on that too.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on one thing with regards to getting support and prioritizing work and things like that. And that was that the professors were amazingly understanding when anything did come up. They really do want you to succeed. And it's easy to feel embarrassed or kind of freak out and realize that you've gotten underwater. But last summer when I switched jobs, I did get underwater in a few of my classes, and I was really embarrassed to reach out to the professors, and they were so nice when I did that it was super helpful, and they worked with me to make sure that, give me a couple of extensions and some things like that. So don't be afraid to ask for help there. They really want you to succeed, and they understand that people are working and they just want to help you get through it. In terms of techniques, one thing that I'll say that I find really helpful is using the Pomodoro technique, which is setting a dedicated time for doing work. I know as somebody that also has ADHD, for me, that's really helpful to just set a timer and say, okay, I'm going to work on something for an hour. And when it's done, I can take a little break or get a snack or something like that. But just setting a timer for dedicated tasks and then kind of reanalyzing when I finish it to see what I'm going to do is really helpful.
And you call that the Pomodoro technique? Is it an app or it's a technique?
Yeah, so that's the technique that it's called. There's also an app. I'm not sure why it's called that actually. Maybe it's the person that came up with it. But if you Google like Pomodoro technique, it's definitely something that's widely known, and there are a few apps for it.
Interesting. Thank you. What about Meg or Sumita? Any other life hacks that you have gotten you through?
File their tasks. Oh, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you don't file your tasks as you complete them, that changed my life. The other thing is, I either have my partner grocery shop or I order Instacart, and it's like a little bit of a sacrifice in terms of price, but I save so much time, and it's like time I get to kind of give back to myself or to school.
Yep. No, that's great. Thank you.
For me, it's been something extremely simple, which is why when I started doing it, I was like, I should have just done it back in college or even when I started working. Is just make lists. So before my day begins, I make a list that these are the things that I absolutely need to get done. These are the things that I can skimp a bit, like I can be a little procrastinated when it comes to those items. And these are, say something's due like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you know what, I can think about it later when I'm a little more relaxed. So that was something that I started, and especially with school. And it works for me, because then by the time my day gets over, I kind of go back to that list and I see, did I really finish all the tasks that I had set for myself? And then if I have time, then can I look at the tasks that were not super important, but at the same time, if I complete them, then I'll have time for the next day for some other tasks. So something, a very simple habit, but really helped me.
Yep, great. I would say a few of the life hacks I did. I mean, you realize how much you can accomplish in like a 30-minute segment. So getting to work 30 minutes early, shutting my door and powering through a couple of case studies in 30 minutes, or getting to class 30 minutes early instead of chit-chatting with my friends and different things like that. It was like, all right, I got to read this one case study in this time. And so you get really quick, or you get really good at saying, these are these little chunks of time that I used to waste. And I can fill them now with quick homework or quick assignments. So I think that was one of the life hacks I learned. Okay. So what has been your, best, how have you, I guess, applied what you are learning to your daily job? So this, you learn at night, apply it in your work. How has that impacted you?
I can do this one. In one of the first classes that we took, it was leadership focused, and we read a case about giving feedback. And that has changed the way that I lead and work on teams. Just having a template for how you work with people and get things done.
So I can go after the Meg. So I think the kind of work that I'm doing right now is focused on product management. So there's a bit of everything thrown in there. We took leadership communication last summer. So that certainly helped me when it came to conflict resolution, how to deal with if I'm working with a team and I know that there's one person whom I don't get along well with, but how to be professional with that person to make sure that my stuff gets done. The other thing that is involved is marketing. So before that, I had it was a purely technical background, as I mentioned. So no clue about marketing, no idea what marketing was about. And then I took the class last year. And since then, that particular class has helped me tremendously with my current job, because consumer behavior, we are selling a product and how do we want to market it? And as a product manager, that's one thing that I sort of need to be on top of. And I can't just wait for my marketing team to come back to me and say, hey, this is how we plan to market it. So that understanding that I got of their strategies or what new I can propose, that came to me from the classes I took. So these are the two that I can think of that were particularly helpful.
I think mine is probably, fairly technical, given that it's a data analytics program. So I didn't have any knowledge of the Python programming language before starting the program. And we had 3 programming focused courses that covered different languages and different concepts. And so I can say, the concrete skill that came out of that was learning how to write Python, how to use it in different environments and things like that. And I was able to apply that immediately at work.
Awesome. One day, it's my life goal, Python. We'll see. All right. What are your goals post-graduate school? What do you want to do then in your career?
I can go first. I'm thinking about that a lot right at the moment since I'm unemployed. And so I think now that I've graduated, I'd love to level up. I had started, getting a little bit of experience with managing people, which is something that I'm very interested in. And so I'd like to move into probably a director or a VP role related to data, probably at a smaller company like a startup that's local here to DC.
I can go next. So I work in the space industry, so satellites, spacecrafts, that's the industry that I work in, and I really like that industry. So I think post MBA, I would continue working as a product manager, but instead of a big company where I'm right now, maybe a startup or a medium-sized company would be my next place to go.
Great. And have you leveraged, or do you plan to leverage the career services aspect at McDonough? I think one of so that's my first question, and I'll then preface by saying one of the unique things about McDonough's part-time MBA is that we actually provide our students full access to the Career Center, which is normally reserved for full-time MBA students. I've worked at a few business schools now, and I will say that it's not always common that part-time MBA students get access to full career recruiting. So I see that as a benefit. But to what extent have you all used or plan to use Career Center resources when you make a transition?
So I actually switched. I think I was surprised that a lot of people did this, but I actually switched mid-program my career and role. But I think the way that the career services was helpful was that we were immediately, it gives you a number of tools when you start out, and there's a program that students get to educate you on what is available to you. So I think like those tools were really helpful as I was interested in switching in advance of recruitment.
I think for me, there were multiple career services events that were put on throughout the program. So there was one for resume review. There was one for, personal branding, coming up with how to speak about yourself and different statements that you can use when talking about yourself, introducing yourself, networking, things like that. And so what's really cool about that is if you attend all of those events, you come out of the program kind of ready to go. So you have your revamped resume, you've been able to practice the interviewing, you've been able to practice talking about yourself and speaking about the concepts that you learned at school and interviews and things like that. So I definitely plan to use the services in general, but it's it's really cool that the events and services start in the program so you can come out ready to go.
So I think for me, the two things that really stand out is tell me about yourself, as well as tell me about yourself / elevator pitch, and also the resume review. Because before I took the sessions, before I attended the sessions that Career Services put forward, I had a very different idea of how my resume should look, what I should focus on. And I think the few events that I attended with the Career Services, watched the webinars, got feedback from the career service advisors, was how I need to put myself on paper without putting a lot of information. And the other thing was the tell me about yourself. As someone with a technical background, we tend to go into a lot of details, which is not what people are willing to listen to in that few minutes. So how to talk about yourself without appearing in a very balanced, but in a way that you are telling the others that you can make a difference to their company, or to, if they decide to hire you, then how you can help them out, but without going into too many details. Just being able to sell yourself in that short period of time, I think, is something that tell me about yourself really helped me with.
Meg, can I ask you maybe to even go a little deeper? You started to say about the different services or programming. To the extent you can kind of recall the Job Search 1 courses, Job Search 2, or even the resume review, like how would someone interact with our Career Center? Like what is the structure for a flex student?
So I think initially the tell me about yourself was incredibly helpful, but also the tool that we use to send to optimize our resumes and to learn how to write a resume properly was eye-opening to me. I feel like I learned that way too late, which was good. And on top of that, I think Job Search 1, which was first year. Now it's hard to remember, but Job Search 1, which was first year, it was a cadence of just understanding how to either engage with the tools that we do have, and like Handshake, for example, is a good one where we understand like what internships and full-time roles are available, and just to get, I think at a baseline, even when you're not recruiting, it's good to get that exposure to like the possibilities of jobs as you're starting the program.
Awesome. And then before I open it up for Q&A from the audience, what advice do you all have for people that are considering an MBA, considering grad school, considering it part-time? What advice would you have for them?
In terms of if you're still in the considering it phase, I'd say go for it. I'm really happy that I ended up doing it. it's funny because a few years before I thought about doing grad school, I thought I would never go back to school, that I would never have the desire or the time or anything like that to do that. And it's been really great. I actually miss being in class since we got out in December. And sometimes I think, oh, what if I took a class at, you know, the community college or something, just one, because I really enjoyed it. And when you do find a program, especially if you choose to do a flex program, I would really encourage you to join a bunch of the clubs and things like that, so you can meet a lot of the people and network as much as you can. I'll say the MBA students are a super friendly bunch. So if you come and you tell them that you're a flex student, that you don't know anybody, they'll introduce you to everybody that they know. I joined Hoyalytics, which is the grad school analytics club. I joined Georgetown Women in Business. There are all kinds of events happening all the time. I took choir for 0 credit. So it was really great. And taking advantage of the community is not only a great way to network, but a great way to make friends and meet new people and get support.
I would say as you're exploring the different possibilities of programs, pay attention to the program structure. I thought that MSB program was really interesting because it mirrored, in the flex program, it had the cohort structure that mirrored a full-time experience. And over the last 2 years, I found that that's really true. You get immersed with people, you get immersed with the coursework. You see people consistently, so you make those connections in the classroom. And then, as Amber mentioned, just expand on that in clubs and other activities.
Sherry, so I apologize. I was actually responding to a participant's question on Zoom, but was your question about choosing between full-time and part-time MBA?
Well, that'll be the next question. Well, so let's go there. My question was, what advice do you have? But like, that's actually a great question. So, how did you choose between full-time and flex? What was the decision factors for you?
So for me, the main decision factor was I did not want to give up working. I wanted to sort of have my job because I really liked it. And at that time, at least, I wasn't thinking of doing a complete pivot. I had already made the pivot within my company. So I thought that I wanted to, instead of leaving work, going back to school for 2 years, and then finding a job, I kind of did not want to go through that cycle. That was my personal thought. I wanted to stay with the job that I had in the company that I had and get, pursue the next level, which was getting the degree. So that was my reason for going with Flex MBA instead of full-time MBA. I honestly, that was the deciding factor for me. Didn't really consider a lot of other factors, but that was the case for me.
Yeah, I mean, that is the big trade-off, right? Do you lose 2 years of your career progression to do a full-time, knowing that you'll then have to re-enter, or do you tough it out really and try to juggle everything? I think there can be benefits to both programs. Like if you are doing a full, what we call industry switch, function switch, just major switch, sometimes a full-time MBA can be a good option. And when I say full switch, we've had students go from being a high school history teacher at a public charter school in Houston. I'm thinking of Coral Taylor. And then she went to work for brand management at Starbucks, right? Like that's a drastic switch. So a full-time MBA can allow you to make a drastic switch. A flex MBA though, a part-time can still allow you to do a switch. I mean, we've had people go from working in engineering firms to going and working for boutique management consulting firms. I mean, so you can still make a switch. You have to put in the time. You have to be able to prioritize, okay, if I want to do the switch, I'm going to need to go to networking events. They may be at 5:30 p.m. or they may be at 5 or 6. So on those days, I may have to shift my work schedule, go in earlier, leave earlier. Maybe I can work remotely from McDonough for the day. Well, so you have to put in that time commitment. But if that is your goal, it is absolutely possible. And then, I would wrap it even by saying, piece of advice, if this is your goal in life, you can do it, right? Don't let anyone, don't let there be naysayers that say, oh, it's going to be hard to juggle, or your stress level, or how can you be good at everything? because thousands and hundreds of thousands of people have done this before you, whether it's, whatever type of part-time graduate program, with strong, executive jobs, with families, without families, people have done it before you, and they're still here and they're still thriving and succeeding. So just trust the process that you can do it, and don't regret, not having done it. So I will open it up for questions. There are a few. Oh, thank you. I know a couple people have answered them, so thank you, panelists, for answering some of them. There's a question here about the core difference between a flex MBA and executive MBA. I'm happy to address that. You both graduate with MBA degrees. So even whether you do a full-time, a part-time, or an executive, your graduate diploma says Master of Business Administration. The difference between flex and executive is going to be the target age demographic of the student. So executive, you're going to have more around average of 15 to 17 years of work experience, with the range going all the way up to 25, 30 years, the minimum probably more around 8 or 9. With a flex MBA, average is 5, range from 2 to 20, right? So there are even people in more senior positions that are still choosing to do the flex program. Access to the Career Center will be different. So as an executive student myself, I didn't have the same access that a flex or full-time student would. So we executive students were not allowed to drop our resume for career recruiting. We couldn't go to employment recruiting events. We couldn't go to any of the kind of the standard career events that McDonough put on. Flex and full-time have the same access. The reason for that is executive students, the thought process is they're at a point in their career where they aren't looking to do massive career changes. They probably have the professional network to be able to make those changes. And they're pursuing executive MBA for different reasons. Like, I had already had a master's degree. I was in higher ed. I loved it. I was planning to stay here. So I was more going for the skills and the network, but not a drastic career pivot. Flex MBA, you're going to have people who want to make a switch, who don't, who are pivoting, but they have that career support. And then the last thing I would say in the difference is, in the flex program, you have access to the full suite of electives that our full-time students would do or would have. A subset of those will be available in the evening that are given first priority to flex students. You would still have access to the full-time daytime electives. Full-time students are given first priority. If there's room, you can do them. But you're going to have access to a lot more electives. Whereas in the executive program, the cohort of 50 students gets a list of 10 electives, and you are all taking 5 of those 10 electives. So you don't have the breadth of options. But they were all fantastic electives. Like, I enjoyed them all. So that, and then lastly, I would say in the flex and full-time program, you're going to go a little bit more in detail into the class topics. So actually doing the marketing plan, the accounting plan, et cetera, whereas the executive MBA, it's more, how do you manage the people that are going to be doing it? So not necessarily learning it exactly yourselves, but how do you manage the people? So that would be the answer to that question. Anything else people want to type in their questions that they might have? I will say we just passed our round 3 deadline, and we're approaching our round 4 deadline. One of the most common questions I get around this time of year is am I at a disadvantage if I apply in round 4? If you are a full-time student, I would say round 4 can be challenging. There are years when we may admit less than 20 people for full-time in round 4. There are years when we admitted more. For flex and flex online, on the other hand, most people apply in the round 2, 3, and 4 timeframe. The reason for that is you're not relocating your life from another city or a country. You're not quitting your job. There's less kind of at stake when you do a part-time program. So it's totally normal, fine to be applying in round 3 and round 4. You're not late. We look forward to receiving your application. And if you have any questions, our entire team, you know, Brianne, myself, our entire admissions team is here to chat with you. We have walk-in hours 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. We have appointments you can do online as well. So we'd love to chat with you. So we could talk more about how this fits into your life goal. All right. Oh, one other question. Can you transfer to full-time if you were admitted to the flex program if circumstances change, like if you were laid off? So officially, no. I mean, officially, whatever program you apply into is the program we do anticipate that you will graduate from. So we don't have kind of opportunities to just switch, and it is a cohort-based program. And so, yeah, you can't pop back and forth between the different programs. Oh, yeah, great. Sumeda, talk a little bit more about that. So did you sit in on a class?
Yep, I actually was kind of deciding because I had decided the program that I was going to apply to. So I think Amber also mentioned that there are schools in this area that offer the part-time program. So for me, I kind of wanted to get an idea of how the classes are conducted, how the professors lead the class, how the students interact. So Georgetown, I reached out to the program office and I said, hey, I'm a prospective student and I would be interested in sitting in a class and just observing how the class happens. And they were super cool about it. They reached back and they said, hey, we have these 2 classes. You can pick and choose which one you want to come to. I believe I picked the marketing one. And then I decided to go and I actually sat in the class. My initial plan was to, I think, sit halfway through class and then leave. But I enjoyed the class so much, and the people that I was sitting with, they were super sweet. They were involving me in the discussions. The professor, the way he was conducting the class, it was so much fun. And that was the big reason for why I chose MSB over the other schools, because I loved the way the professor was leading the class. I loved the in-class interactions. So just wanted to bring it to the participants' attention that could be another way you could, that's another reason why MSB is like ahead of the other schools.
Great. And that program is called Experience Georgetown. So maybe we can drop the link in, Brianne, perhaps to the chat. We'd love to have you visit a class. I would say we probably have maybe a couple of class weeks left before they go into finals, but definitely, certainly come in. We'd love to have you experience it. Another question here about, can international students apply for the Flex MBA? So we do not process F1 visas for the Flex MBA. However, if you are here on a visa with your company or dependent visa, and basically you don't need us to process an F1 visa, absolutely. We love having international students in the Flex program. It's a part of our global DNA.
And I can speak for that because I'm an international student and I'm on the H-1B visa, which is the work visa, and I'm in the Flex MBA program.
There you go. Awesome. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Brianne, for putting that in. Perfect. Well, if there's no other questions, I will turn it over to you, Brianne, for some closing remarks.
Of course. Thank you so much. This was a wonderful panel. I definitely appreciate you, Shelly, Sumeda, Meg, and Amber for being here. You shared all some great strategies, ways to manage your time throughout the program and how to prioritize your studies. Thank you for taking your time to share your experiences at Georgetown McDonough. And to our audience, I just want to say, I know deciding to continue your education, it is a huge, and most importantly, where you decide to study at, that's a huge decision to make. And I definitely want to say, I hope you enjoyed this panel of inspiring and motivating women that we have here. Just know that this is a community that definitely supports women, and we have invaluable resources to ensure you succeed and grow in whatever industry or job function, you plan that you're in, or you kind of plan to pivot to, whatever is in your goals. And to the panel, any last inspiring words you like to share with the audience that we have.
I think apply. It's worth doing, especially at McDonough.
Sumita, Amber, any inspiring words you guys have?
I just want to say that the fact that you're here at this panel discussion, that indicates your sort of decision or your seriousness about this. I really, really hope you decide to come to Georgetown, and it would be awesome to meet in person.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree. My full name's on here. Feel free to message me on LinkedIn if you have any questions or want to chat through anything further.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And, to our audience, if you have questions and want to be connected with an MBA student ambassador or myself, I can definitely drop my email address in the chat for you all, and I can definitely get you connected with an ambassador, or even Amber, Meg, or Sumita, just to ask additional questions, just to get, a little bit more insight that we may not have covered in this panel for you this evening. I know they'll appreciate you asking your great questions and, getting a little bit more information about Georgetown, because that shows your interest and you're really serious, about moving forward with, continuing your education. I did drop my email in the chat for you all. I know some of you may have my email, but you can just shoot me an email and, get connected with our community, ask more questions, come to more events, virtual or in person, if you're, local in the area. And I appreciate you all for joining. And I want you all to have a safe evening. And I want you to reach out and make sure that you connect with us, and, and we can point you in the right direction of where you need to be.